Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Sunday Krishna book reading to Prabhupada. Today, as you can see, we're in Srila Prabhupada's garden. Prabhupada's rooms are being decorated for his Divine Disappearance Day, which will happen on November 5. So today they've already started the decorating. So we're going to take you on a little tour of Prabhupada's garden. We'll take you on a little tour. It's very beautiful in here. The plants, beautiful garden. Prabhupada very much like this fountain. So when it's working, the fountain sprays out. It's very beautiful. One of Prabhupada's early disciples made this. And then we have all these beautiful trees. You can see this big palm tree. So devotees come here, they chant in the morning, or they come and read. It's very beautiful. And over here we have our dear Sachinandan Prabhu. He helps us with the sound in our temple programs. And over here we have Prabhupada's kitchen. Right here is Prabhupada's kitchen, where devotees are still cooking for Prabhupada even today. So this is our first time reading to Prabhupada in his garden, and so we are very happy to have you with us today. You can come over by Prabhupada. A little different today. Come, follow. Okay, so as we always do, before we begin Krishna book, reading to Prabhupada, we offer our humble obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and to each other. Namam Vishnuvadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti-Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Paskachade Shatarane. And to each other, Vanchakalpa Drubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So today, my dear devotees, online, we're going to be reading chapter 55. Pradyumna, born to Krishna and Rukmini. Srila Prabhupada, today, this Sunday, we're reading chapter 55, Pradyumna, born to Krishna and Rukmini. And for those of you online where Krishna is your second language, we've included the subtitles. So you can see right below where you can read the English Krishna book with the subtitles. It is said that Cupid, who is directly part and parcel of Lord Vasudeva, and who was formerly burned to ashes by the anger of Lord Shiva, took birth from the womb of Rukmini, begotten by Krishna. This is Kamadeva, a demigod of the heavenly planets, especially capable of inducing lusty desires. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, has many grades of parts and parcels, but the quadruple expansions of Krishna, Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, are directly in the Vishnu category. Kama, or the Cupid demigod, who later took his birth from the womb of Rukmini, was also named Pradyumna. But he cannot be the Pradyumna of the Vishnu category. He belongs to the category of Jiva Tattva, but for exhibiting special power in the category of demigods, he was a part and parcel of the super prowess of Pradyumna. That is the verdict of the Goswamis. Therefore, when Cupid was burned to ashes by the anger of Lord Shiva, he merged into the body of Vasudeva, and to get his body again, he was begotten in the womb of Rukmini by Lord Krishna himself. Thus, he was born as the son of Krishna and celebrated by the name Pradyumna. Because he was begotten by Lord Krishna directly, his qualities were most similar to those of Krishna. Can you go in and get the Krishna books?
Yeah, right.
Behind Prabhupada in the bookshelf.
There was a demon of the name Shambhara who was destined to be killed by Pradyumna. The Shambhara demon knew of his destiny, and as soon as he learned that Pradyumna had been born, he took the shape of a woman and kidnapped the baby from the maternity home, less than 10 days after his birth. The demon took him and threw him directly into the sea. But, as it is said, whoever is protected by Krishna, no one can kill. And whoever is destined to be killed by Krishna, no one can protect. When Pradyumna was thrown into the sea, a big fish immediately swallowed him. Later, this fish was caught in the net of a fisherman, and the fish was later sold to the Shambhara demon. In the kitchen of the demon was a maidservant whose name was Mayavati. This woman had formerly been the wife of Cupid, called Rati. When the fish was presented to the demon Shambhara, it was taken charge of by his cook, who was to make it into a palatable fish preparation. Demons and Rakshasas are accustomed to eat meat, fish, and similar non-vegetarian foods. Demons like Ravana, Kamsa, and Hiranyakashipu, although born of Brahmin and Kshatriya fathers, used to take meat and flesh without discrimination. This practice is still prevalent in India, and those who eat meat and fish are generally called demons and Rakshasas.
Flashlight?
He needs a flashlight.
Flashlight on your phone? Maybe I can fit it here.
He's giving you one.
Yeah. There we go. Shut.
Let him hold it.
Yeah. When the cook was cutting the fish, he found within its stomach a nice baby, which he immediately presented to the charge of Mayavati, who was an assistant in the kitchen affairs. The woman was surprised to see how such a nice baby could remain within the belly of a fish, and the situation perplexed her. The great sage Narada then appeared and explained to her about the birth of Pradyumna, how the baby had been taken away by Shambhara and later thrown into the sea. In this way, the whole story was disclosed to Mayavati. Mayavati knew that she had previously been Rati, the wife of Cupid. After her husband was burned to ashes by the wrath of Lord Shiva, she was always expecting him to come back in a material form. One was engaged in cooking rice and dal in the kitchen, but when she got this nice baby and understood he was Cupid, her own husband, she naturally took charge of him and with great affection began to bathe him regularly. The baby rapidly grew up, and within a very short time he became a beautiful young man. His eyes were just like the petals of a lotus flowers, and his arms were long, reaching down to his knees. Any woman who happened to see him was captured by his bodily beauty.
Mayavati could understand, am I right? Yeah. Yes. Mayavati could understand. No. Okay. That big microphone won't work out here? Okay.
Hare Krishna, Mataji,
Hare,
one minute.
Hare Krishna. Mayavadi.
I open the line.
Okay, we're online, so. Okay. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Oh, so nice. Yeah, that would be nice. It's quite humid, especially for Prabhupada too. Thank you. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay. Mayavadi could understand that her former husband, Cupid, born as Pradyumna, had grown into such a nice young man, and she also gradually became captivated and lusty. Smiling before him, come up close, smiling before him with a feminine attractiveness, she expressed her desire for sexual union. He therefore inquired from her, "How is it possible that first you were affectionate like a mother, and now you're expressing the symptoms of a lusty woman? What is the reason for such a change?" On hearing this statement from Pradyumna, the woman Rati replied, "My dear sir, you are the son of Lord Krishna. Before you were 10 days old, you were stolen by the Shambara demon and later thrown into the water and swallowed by a fish. In this way you have come under my care. But actually in your former life as Cupid, I was your wife. Therefore my manifestation of conjugal symptoms is not at all incompatible. Shambara wanted to kill you, and he is endowed with various mystic powers. Therefore, before he again attempts to kill you, please kill him as soon as possible with your divine power. Since you were stolen by Shambara, your mother Rukmini Devi had been in a very grievous condition, like a Karari bird who has lost her babies. She is very affectionate toward you, and since you have been taken away from her, she has been living like a cow, aggrieved over the loss of its calf. Should I put it to him? Give it to him?
Mayavati had mystic knowledge of supernatural powers. Supernatural powers are generally known as Maya, and to surpass all such powers, there is another supernatural power called Mahamaya. Mayavati had the knowledge of the mystic power of Mahamaya, and she delivered to Pradyumna this specific energetic power in order to defeat the mystic powers of the Shambara demon. Thus, being empowered by his wife, Pradyumna immediately went before Shambara and challenged him to fight. Pradyumna addressed him in very strong language so that his temper would be agitated and he would be moved to fight. At Pradyumna's words, the demon Shambara, being insulted, felt just as a snake feels after being struck by someone's foot. A serpent cannot tolerate being kicked by another animal or by a man, and it immediately bites its opponent. Should I continue?
You can go on, but where did you stop? What's the next paragraph?
Shambara felt the words of Pradyumna.
Yeah,
Yeah, this one.
at the top. Shambara.
Sambara felt the words of Pradyumna as if they were a kick.
Little louder.
He immediately took his club in his hand and appeared before Pradyumna to fight, roaring like a thundering cloud. In great anger, the demon began to beat Pradyumna with his club. Just as a thunderbolt beats a mountain, Pradyumna protected himself with his own club and eventually struck the demon very severely. In this way, the fighting between Sambarasura and Pradyumna began in earnest.
But Shambharasura knew the art of mystic powers and could raise himself into the sky and fight from outer space. There's a demon of the name Maya, and Shambharasura had learned many mystic powers from him. He thus raised himself high into the sky and threw various types of nuclear weapons at the body of Pradyumna. To combat the mystic powers of Shambharasura, Pradyumna invoked another mystic power known as Mahavidya, which was different from the black mystic power. The Mahavidya mystic power is based on the quality of goodness. Shambhara, understanding that his enemy was formidable, took assistance from various kinds of demoniac mystic powers belonging to the Guhyakas, the Gandharvas, the Pishachas, the snakes, and the Rakshasas. But although the demon exhibited his mystic powers and took shelter of supernatural strength, Pradyumna was able to counteract his strength and powers by the superior power of Mahavidya. When Shambharasura was defeated in every respect, Pradyumna took his sharp sword and immediately cut off the demon's head, which was decorated with a helmet and valuable jewels. When Pradyumna thus killed the demon, all the demigods in the higher planetary systems showered flowers on him.
Louder and slower. Let's see, the subtitles have to pick up your words.
Pradyumna's wife, I need that flashlight again.
Is that light? Here, hold that. Here you go. Sit down. Start.
Pradyumna's wife, my body, could travel in outer space, and therefore they directly reached Dwarka, his father's capital, by the airways. They passed along the palace. They passed above the palace of Lord Krishna, and came down as a cloud comes down with lightning. The interaction of the palace is known as the Antapura, private apartments. Pradyumna and Mayavadi could see many women there, and they sat down among them. When the women saw Pradyumna dressed in yellowish garments with very long arms, curling hair, beautiful reddish eyes, smiling face, jewelry, and ornaments, they at first could not recognize him as a personality different from Krishna. They all felt very bashful at the sudden appearance of Krishna and wanted to hide in different corners of the palace.
She says, continue, Guru.
Okay. When the women saw, however, that not all the characteristics of Lord Krishna were present in the personality of Pradyumna, and out of curiosity they came back to see him and his wife Mayavati. All of them were conjecturing as to who he was, for he was so beautiful. Among the women was Rukmini Devi, who was equally beautiful and with her lotus-like eyes. Seeing Pradyumna, she naturally remembered her own son, and milk began to flow from her breasts out of motherly affection. She then began to wonder, who is the beautiful young boy? He appears to be the most beautiful person. Who was the fortunate young woman? She able to conceive this nice boy in her womb and become her mother. And who is that young woman who was accompanying him? How have they met? Remembering my own son, she was stolen. Remembering my own son who was stolen from the maternity house, I could only guess that he is living somewhere where he might have grown by this time to be like this boy. Suddenly by intuition, Rukmini could understand that Pradyumna was her own lost son. She could also observe in that Pradyumna resembled Lord Krishna in every respect. She was struck with wonder as to how he had acquired all the characteristics of Lord Krishna. She therefore began to think more confidently that the boy must be her own grown-up son, because she felt so much affection for him, and as an auspicious sign, Her left arm was trembling.
At that very moment, Lord Krishna, along with his father and mother Devaki and Vasudeva, appeared on the scene. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, could understand everything, yet in that situation he remained silent. However, by the desire of Lord Sri Krishna, the great sage Narada also appeared, and he disclosed all the incidents, how Pradyumna had been stolen from the maternity home, and how he had grown up, and had come there with his wife Mayavati, who had formerly been Rati, the wife of Cupid. When everyone was informed of the mysterious disappearance of Pradyumna and how he had grown up, they were all struck with wonder, because they had gotten back their dead son after they were almost hopeless of his return. When they understood that it was Pradyumna who was present, they received him with great delight. One after another, all the members of the family, Devaki, Vasudeva, Lord Sri Krishna, Lord Balaram, Rukmini, and all the women of the family, embraced Pradyumna and his wife Mayavati. When the news of Pradyumna's return spread all over the city of Dwarka, all the astonished citizens came with great eagerness to see the lost Pradyumna. "The dead son has come back," they said. "What can be more pleasing than this?"
Srila Shukadeva Goswami has explained that in the beginning, all the ladies of the palace, who were all mothers and stepmothers of Pradyumna, mistook him to be Krishna and were all bashful, infected by the desire for conjugal love. The explanation is that Pradyumna's personal appearance was exactly like Krishna's, and he was factually Cupid himself. There was no cause for astonishment. Therefore, when the mothers of Pradyumna and other women mistook him in that way, it is clear from this statement that Pradyumna's bodily characteristics were so similar to Krishna's that he was mistaken for Krishna even by his mother. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 55th chapter of Krishna, Pradyumna, born to Krishna and Rukmini. Hari Bol.
Remember, we're reading for Prabhupada as well as for our online program.
Chapter 56. The story of Syamantaka jewel. There was a king named Satyajit within the jurisdictions of Dwarka Dham. He was a great devotee of the sun god, who awarded him the benedictions of a jewel known as Syamantaka. Because of this Syamantaka jewel, there was a misunderstanding between King Satyajit and the Yadu dynasty. Later the matter was settled when Satyajit voluntarily offered Krishna his daughter Satyabhama along with the Syamantaka jewel. Not only Satyabhama but also Jamvanti, the daughter of Jamvan, was married to Lord Krishna on account of Syamantaka jewel. These two marriages took place before the appearance of Pradyumna, which was described in the last chapter. How King Satyajit offended the Yadu dynasty and how he later came to his senses and offered his daughter and the Syamantaka jewel to Krishna are described as follows.
Since he was a great devotee of the sun god, King Satyajit gradually entered into a very friendly relationship with him. The sun god was pleased with him and delivered to him an exceptional jewel known as Syamantaka. When Satyajit wore this jewel in a locket around his neck, he appeared exactly like the sun god. putting on this jewel, he entered the city of Dwaraka, and people thought that the sun god had come into the city to see Krishna. They knew that Krishna, being the supreme personality of Godhead, was sometimes visited by the demigods. So while Satyajit was visiting the city of Dwaraka, all the inhabitants except Krishna took him to be the sun god himself. Although King Satyajit was known to everyone, he could not be recognized because of the dazzling effulgence of the Syamantaka jewel.
Mistaking Satyajit to be the sun god, some of the important citizens of Dwarka immediately went to Krishna to inform him the sun god had arrived to see him. At that time, Krishna was playing chess. One of the important residents of Dwarka spoke this: "My dear Lord Krishna, my dear Lord Narayan, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and in your plenary portion of Narayan or Vishnu, you have 4 hands with different symbols, the conch shell disc, club, and lotus flower. You are actually the owner of everything, but in spite of your being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, you descended in Krishna Vrindavan to act as the child of Jashoda Mata, who sometimes used to tie you up with ropes, and you were celebrated therefore with the name Damodar. That Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God, and Narayan is accepted by the citizens of Dwarka, was later confirmed by the great Mayavadi philosophical leader Shankaracharya. By accepting the Lord as impersonal as he did, he did not reject the Lord's personal form. Everything which has form in this material world is subject to creation, maintenance, and annihilation, but because the Supreme Personality of Narayan does not have a material form subject to these limitations, Shankaracharya, to convince the less intelligent men who take Krishna to be an ordinary human being, said that God is impersonal. This impersonality means that he is not a person in the matter of this material condition. He is a transcendental personality without a material body.
The citizens, which way is it? The citizens of Dwarka addressed Lord Krishna not only as Damodar, but also as Govinda, which indicates that Krishna is very affectionate to the cows and calves. And just to refer to their intimate connection with Krishna, they addressed him as Yadunandana, because he was born the son of Vasudeva in the Yadu dynasty. The citizens of Dwarka concluded by addressing Krishna as the supreme master of the whole universe. They addressed Krishna in many different ways, proud of being citizens of Dwarka who could see Krishna daily.
When Satyajit was visiting the city of Dwarka, the citizens felt great pride to think that although Krishna was living in Dwarka like an ordinary human being, the demigods were coming to see him. Thus they informed Lord Krishna that the sun god, with his glaring bodily effulgence, was coming to see him. The citizens of Dwarka confirmed that the sun god's coming into Dwarka was not very wonderful, because people all over the universe who were searching after the Supreme Personality of Godhead knew that he had appeared in the Yadu dynasty and was living in Dwarka as one of the members of that family. Thus the citizens expressed their joy on this occasion. On hearing the statements of his citizens, the all-pervasive personality of Godhead, Krishna, simply smiled. Being pleased with the citizens of Dwarka, Krishna informed them that the person they described as the sun god was actually King Satyajit, who had come to visit Dwarka city to show his opulence in the form of the valuable jewel obtained from the sun god.
Satyajit, however, did not come to see Krishna. He was instead overwhelmed by the Syamantaka jewel. He installed the jewel in a temple to be worshipped by Brahmanas. He engaged for this purpose. This is an example of a less intelligent person worshipping a material thing. In the Bhagavad-Gita, it is stated that less intelligent persons, in order to get immediate results from their fruitive activities, worship the demigods created within this universe. The word materialist means one concerned with gratifications of the senses within this material world. Although Krishna later asked for this Syamantaka jewel, King Satyajit did not deliver it. On the contrary, he installed the jewel for his own purpose of worship. And who would not worship that jewel? Syamantaka jewel was so powerful that daily it produced a large quantity of gold. A quantity of gold is counted by the measurement called a bhara. According to Vedic formulas, one bhara is equal to about 21 pounds and one mound equal about 82 pounds. The jewel was producing about 170 pounds of gold every day. Besides that, it is learned from the Vedic literatures that in whatever part of the world this jewel was worshipped, there was no possibility of famine. And whenever the jewel was present, there was no possibility of anything inauspicious, such as pestilence.
Lord Krishna wanted to teach the world that the best of everything should be offered to the ruling chief of the country. King Ugrasena was the overlord of many dynasties and happened to be the grandfather of Krishna. So Krishna asked Satyajit to present the Syamantaka jewel to King Ugrasena. Krishna pleaded that the best should be offered to the king. But Satyajit, being a worshipper of the demigods, had become too materialistic, and instead of accepting the request of Krishna, thought it wiser to worship the jewel to get the 170 pounds of gold every day. Materialistic persons who can achieve such huge quantities of gold are not interested in Krishna consciousness. Sometimes, therefore, to show special favor, Krishna takes away one's great accumulations of materialistic wealth and thus makes one a great devotee. But Satyajit refused to abide by the order of Krishna and did not deliver the jewel.
After this incident, Satyajit's younger brother, in order to display the opulence of the family, took the jewel, put it on his neck, and rode on horseback into the forest, making a show of his material opulence. When Satyajit's brother, who was known as Pradyumna, was moving here and there in the forest, a big lion attacked him, killed him, both him and the horse on which he was riding, and took away the jewel into his cave. News of this was received by the gorilla king, Jambavan, who then killed that lion in the cave and took away the jewel. Jambavan had been a great devotee of the Lord since the time of Lord Ramachandra, so he did not take the valuable jewel as something he very much needed. He gave it to his young boy to play with as a toy. In the city, when Satyajit's younger brother, Pradyumna, did not return from the forest with the jewel, Satyajit became very upset. He did not know that his brother had been killed by a lion. The lion had been killed by Jambavan. He thought instead that because Krishna wanted that jewel, which had not been delivered to him, Krishna might have therefore taken the jewel from Pradyumna. Let's see. By force and killed him. The idea grew into a rumor which Satyajit spread in every part of Dwarka.
The false rumor that Krishna had killed Pradyumna and taken away the jewel spread everywhere like wildfire. Krishna did not like to be defamed in that way, and therefore he decided that he would go to the forest and find the Syamantaka jewel. Taking with him some of the important inhabitants of Dwarka, Krishna went to search out Pradyumna, the brother of Satyajit, and found him dead killed by the lion. At the same time, Krishna also found the lion, killed by Jambavan, who is generally called Riksha. It was found that the lion had been killed by the hand of Riksha without the assistance of any weapon. Krishna and the citizens of Dwarka then found in the forest a great tunnel, said to be the path to Riksha's house. Krishna knew that the inhabitants of Dwarka would be afraid to enter the tunnel. Therefore, he asked them to remain outside, and he himself entered the dark tunnel alone to find Riksha Jambavan. After entering the tunnel, Krishna saw that the valuable jewel known as Syamantaka had been given to the son of Riksha as a toy. To take the jewel from the child, Krishna approached and stood before him. When the nurse taking care of Riksha's child saw Krishna standing before her, she was afraid, thinking he might take away the valuable Syamantaka jewel, and she cried out loudly in fear.
Hearing the nurse's cries, Jambavan appeared on the scene in a very angry mood. Jambavan was actually a great devotee of Lord Krishna, but because he was angry, he could not recognize his master and thought him to be an ordinary man. This brings to mind the statement of the Bhagavad-Gita, in which the Lord advises Arjuna to get free from anger, greed, and lust in order to rise to the spiritual platform. Lust, anger, and greed run parallel in the heart and check one's progress on the spiritual path.
Not recognizing his master, Jamvan challenged him to fight. There was then a great fight between Krishna and Jamvan, in which they fought like two opposing vultures. Whenever there is an eatable crops, the vultures fight hardly over the prey. Krishna and Jamvan first of all fought with weapons, then with stones, then with big trees, then hands, until at last they were hitting each other with their fists, their blow like the striking of thunderbolts. Each expected victory over the other, but the fighting continued for 28 days, both in daytime and at night, without stopping.
Although Jambavan was the strongest living entity of that time, practically all the joints of his bodily limbs became slackened, and his strength was reduced practically to nil, for he was struck constantly by the fists of Sri Krishna. Feeling very tired, with perspiration all over his body, Jambavan was astonished. Who was this opponent who was fighting so hard with him? Jambavan was quite aware of his own superhuman bodily strength, but when he felt tired from being struck by Krishna, he could understand that Krishna was no one else but his worshipable Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This incident has special significance for devotees. In the beginning, Jambavan could not understand Krishna because his vision was obscured by material attachment. He was attached to his boy and to the greatly valuable Syamantaka jewel, which he did not want to spare for Krishna. In fact, when Krishna came there, he was angry, thinking that Krishna had come to take away the jewel. This is the material position. Although one is very strong in body, that cannot help him understand Krishna.
And in Sparting,
Slower. Sorry.
continue.
Yeah.
In a sporting attitude, Krishna wanted to engage in a mock fight with his devotee. As we've experienced from pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, Supreme Personality of Godhead has all the propensities and instincts of a human being. Sometimes, in a sportive mood, he wishes to fight to make a show of bodily strength, and when he so desires, he selects one of his suitable devotees to give him that pleasure. Krishna desired this pleasure of mock fighting with Jambavan. Although Jambavan was a devotee, by nature he did not know that his opponent was Krishna by giving service to the Lord by his bodily strength. But as soon as the devotee was pleased by the fighting, Jambavan immediately understood that his opponent was none other than the Supreme Lord himself. The conclusion is that he can understand Krishna by his service, for Krishna is sometimes satisfied by fighting also. Jambavan therefore said to the Lord, "My dear Lord, I can now understand who you are. You are the Supreme Personality of God and Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu, the source of everyone's strength, wealth, reputation, beauty, wisdom, and renunciation." This statement of Jambavan's is confirmed with the Vedanta Sutra, whereas the Supreme Lord is declared to be the source of everything. Jambavan identified Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality, Lord Vishnu. "My dear Lord, you are the creator of the creators of the universal affairs." This statement is very instructive. The ordinary man who is amazed by the activities of a person with an exceptional brain. The ordinary man is surprised to see the inventions of a great scientist, but the statement of Jambavan confirms that although a scientist may be a person creator of many wonderful things, Krishna is the creator of the scientist. He is the creator of not only one scientist, but millions and billions all over the universe. Jambavan said further, not only are you the creator of the creators, but you are also the creator of the material elements, which the so-called creators manipulate. Scientists utilize the physical elements or laws of material nature to do something wonderful, but actually such laws and elements are also the creation of Krishna. This is actual scientific understanding. Less intelligent men do not try to understand who created the brain of the scientist. They are satisfied simply to see the wonderful creation mentioned by the scientist.
Do you have your phone that you could turn the light on for him?
My phone's battery is dead.
Oh, do you have a phone? He has to use his phone. Jambavan, sorry, Srila Prabhupada. Jambavan continued, "My dear Lord, the time factor, which combines all the physical elements, is also your representative. You are the supreme time factor in which all creation takes place, is maintained, and is finally annihilated. And beyond the physical elements and the time factor, the persons who manipulate the ingredients and advantage of creation are part and parcel of you. The living entity is not, therefore, an independent creator. By studying all factors in the right perspective, one can see that you are the supreme controller and Lord of everything. My dear Lord, I can therefore understand that you are the same Supreme Personality of Godhead, whom I worship as Lord Ramachandra. My Lord Ramachandra wanted to construct a bridge over the ocean, and I saw personally how the ocean became agitated simply by my Lord's glancing over it. And when the whole ocean became agitated, living entities like whales, alligators, and Timingala fish all became perturbed. The Timingala fish in the ocean can swallow big aquatics like whales in one gulp. In this way, the ocean was forced to give way and allow Ramachandra to cross to the island known as Lanka. This island is now said to be Ceylon. Lord Ramachandra's construction of a bridge over the ocean from Cape Comorin to Ceylon is still well known to everyone. After the construction of the bridge, a fire was set all over the kingdom of Ravana. During the fighting with Ravana, every part of his limbs was slashed to pieces by your sharp arrows, and his heads fell to the face of the earth. Now I can understand that you are none other than my Lord Ramachandra. No one else has such immeasurable strength. No one else could defeat me in this way.
Lord Krishna was satisfied by the prayers and statements of Jambavan, and to mitigate Jambavan's pain, he began to lightly rub the lotus palm of his hand all over Jambavan's body. Thus, Jambavan at once felt relieved from the fatigue of the great fight. Lord Krishna then addressed him as King Jambavan because he, and not the lion, was actually the king of the forest, having killed a lion with his bare hands without a weapon. Krishna informed Jambavan that he had come to ask for the Syamantaka jewel because ever since it had been stolen, his name had been defamed by the less intelligent. Krishna plainly informed him that he had come there to ask for the jewel in order to be free from this defamation. Jambavan understood the whole situation, and to satisfy the Lord, he immediately delivered not only the Syamantaka jewel but also his daughter Jambavati, who was of marriageable age, and presented her to Lord Krishna.
The episode of Jamanti marriage with Lord Krishna and the delivery of the jewel known as Syamantaka was finished within the mountain cave. Although the fighting between Krishna and Jamban went on for 28 days, the inhabitants of Dwarika waited outside the tunnel for 12 days, and after that they decided that something undesirable must have happened. They could not understand for certain what had actually happened, and being very sorry and tired, they returned to the city of Dwarika.
All the members of the family, namely Krishna's mother Devaki, his father Vasudeva, and his chief wife Rukmini, along with all other friends, relatives, and residents of the palace, were very sorry when the citizens returned home without Krishna. Because of their natural affection for Krishna, they began to call Satyajit ill names, for he was the cause of Krishna's disappearance. They went to worship the goddess Chandrabhaga, praying for the return of Krishna. The goddess was satisfied by the prayers of the citizens of Dwaraka, and she immediately offered them her benediction. Simultaneously, Krishna appeared on the scene, accompanied by his new wife, Jambavati, and all the inhabitants of Dwaraka and relatives of Krishna became joyful. The inhabitants of Dwaraka were as joyful as someone receiving a dear relative back from the dead. They had concluded that Krishna had been put into great difficulties due to the fighting. Therefore, they had become almost hopeless of his return. But when they saw that Krishna had actually returned, not alone, but with a new wife, Jambavati, they immediately performed a ceremony of celebration.
King Ugrasena then called for a meeting of all important kings and chiefs. He also insulted Satyajit, and before the whole assembly, Krishna explained that the incident of the recovery of the jewel from Jambavan. Krishna wanted to return the valuable jewel to King Satyajit. Satyajit, however, was ashamed because he had unnecessarily defamed Krishna. He accepted the jewel in his hand, but he remained silent, bending his head downwards, and without saying anything. In the assembly of the kings and chiefs, he returned home with the jewel. Then he thought about how he could clear himself of the abominable act he had performed by defaming Krishna. He was conscious that he had offended Krishna very grievously, and that he had He had to find a remedial measure so that Krishna could again be pleased with him. King Sijadev was eager to get relief from the anxiety he had foolishly created due to being attracted by a material thing, specifically the Syamantaka jewel. Truly afflicted by the offense he had committed against Krishna, he sincerely wanted to rectify it. But then Krishna gave him good intelligence, and Satyajit decided to hand over to Krishna both the jewel and his beautiful daughter, Satyabhama. There was no alternative for mitigating the situation, and therefore he arranged the materiality of Krishna and his daughter. He gave in charity both the jewel and his daughter to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Satyabhama was so beautiful and qualified that Satyajit, in spite of being asked by her, for her hand by many princes, was waiting to find a suitable son-in-law. By the grace of Krishna, he decided to hand his daughter over to him.
Lord Krishna, being pleased with Satyajit, informed him that he did not have any need of the Syamantaka jewel. It is better to let it remain in the temple as you have kept it, he said, and every one of us will derive benefit from the jewel. Because of the jewel's presence in the city of Dwarka, there will be no more famines or disturbances created by pestilence or excessive heat and cold. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 56th chapter of Krishna, the story of the Syamantaka jewel. Haribol! So, my dear devotees online, and all of us, this concludes our 1 hour of reading Krishna book to Srila Prabhupada. We thank you very much for joining us here in Prabhupada's garden, here in his house. And on the 5th of November, we will be honoring Srila Prabhupada's disappearance day. So please join us on ISKCON Vrindavan Live Facebook page. And as we always do, let us offer our respectful obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and to each other. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paskachadeshata. And to each other, Vancha Kalpaturbyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Jai Krishna Book. Shri Gauda Bhakta Vrinda. Haribol.